Hello and welcome to the MHG podcast. As usual, life can be a little bit miserable, life can be a little bit dark, but we are here to bring you as much light and as much joy as possible. This week in the form of a list format because it's the MHG Games of the Year Awards. So joining me this week, this very special week, to do Game of the Year Awards is Stu. How you doing, Stu?
Yeah, pretty good. Looking forward to talking about, Call of Duty, Roblox, Fortnite, all the ones that always hit our top 10 every year, Yeah, I'm sure I made that same joke last title. Yeah, the Ubisoft.
No, did they release anything this year? I don't know. Last year, rather, 2024. It's 2025.
Star Wars
did
Outlaws?
They release anything? Was that good? I don't know.
I think it was good.
Was it?
But it's not on my list. Spoilers. It ain't.
It's not on mine either.
Nah.
I don't think I've got a single AAA on my list. Spoilers. Oh my God, there's the shock of the year, innit? Brad's not got a AAA game on their list.
God, you can feel the tsunami from here of that impact. Yeah. Christ.
Although I think my games of not 2024, well, one of them was actually going to be, they're going to be my games of not 2025 because I started playing them both into 2025, would be Ace Combat 7. My God, that was amazing, by the way. That's not even AAA in my memory. That's AA, in it, really.
Yeah, definitely.
And I've also started Final Fantasy 7 Remake Intergrade. And boy, luckily I forgot quite a lot about the original Final Fantasy 7 because once it's gone, it's gone. I did complete that way back in 1997, I want to say.
Yep.
Yeah, 30 years ago nearly. Bloody hell. 30 years is a long time. I think I stored the Final Fantasy memory banks in my leg because I'm playing the remake and it's like, oh, I don't remember that. Did that happen? I don't know. Was this new? Is there a lot? Because anyway. But yeah, that's really good. I'm playing that at the moment. But do you know what else you can play, Stu?
What else can you play?
You can play some of the best video games of the year, Stu.
Yeah, you can.
Now, the format's a bit weird, right? Obviously, in most countdowns, we have you generally do a top 10 or something like that. Because it's us, okay, Stu has very conveniently got a nice list, 10 to 1. Is it starting at 10, going 1 with some honourable mentions?
That's right.
Me, I've just gone, there's some games I really, really, really liked, and I think this one might be my number one, but any of them could be my number one. They're like all my children. So do you want to go, Stu? Because this is how prepared we are. Would you like to do your number 10 and then we'll drop into honourable mentions as we go?
Absolutely, yeah. So my number 10 is Alien Rogue Incursion, which I spoke about very recently. It's a VR game, a PC VR game. And yeah, you kind of, these creatures that you may never seen before, you've got to fight them. Yeah, you might not know anything about them. You might not have heard of them. But so it's
Predators or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I think there's been some really, really good Alien versus Predator films as well. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sparking a memory.
There's some nice origin story ones as well, isn't there? Somewhere, something like that.
Oh yeah. Really great
Promenades,
sort of prequel.
Promenades and Theseus or something like that.
That's them. That's the two.
Yeah.
Promenade and Theseus.
That sounds like a really good buddy cop movie.
Actually, genuinely does an 80s buddy cop movie like with Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi or something. But
you can't do that because he's dead. But
well, I know, yeah.
John Belushi, that is. Jesus Christ, we're not killed off Dan Aykroyd. There's no spoilers here. Anyway, Alien VR game, Stu. Talk about it. Sorry.
Yeah. We'll spend a couple of minutes on each. We won't kind of relitigate everything that we talked about before, but it's weird. It's a weird top 10 entry because it's got a lot of problems, mainly the combat, which isn't great. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but atmosphere, graphics, story, excellent story, voice acting, tension, design, layout, all of them really, really good. So they biffed it a little bit with the combat, but every other aspect of it is top tier, and I'm really enjoying it. A great VR experience, but not my best VR game of the year. Spoilers. But yeah, there you are.
And better than at least half the Alien films.
Absolutely.
In terms of a movie, because that's what VR is to me. A lot of it, it's an interactive experience.
Oh,
so it's like watching a movie in a new way for something like that.
Being a part of it, yeah, you can be a part of the game in a way that you've never been able to before. So it's so good. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. PlayStation VR 3. This time we actually care. Be a part of it. There you go.
Be a part of it. There you go. Yeah, that's your slogan.
There you go. For me, obviously that you've just quick cover on that. That's your number 10. I'm going looking at my list because obviously it's going to be a surprise to me which I pick out in which order. One that's been around and I think was one of my games of the year, or very close, either last year or the year before when it was in early access, but it got an official release in 2024, and that's Route, which for anyone who doesn't remember or hasn't listened prior or anything like that, is it's a simplified train station management game where you guys got to get trains routed to the stations, and then you build new tracks, and it's all done as though you're looking at a like an actual train operator screen, and it's all really done well. It's hit its 1.0, and again, it's still just an absolutely fabulous game. I've spoke about it in depth more than once before, and it's still fabulous, and it's hit 1.0. Loads of quality of life updates. If you played it a couple of years ago or whatever, or you got in early, give it another look, because it's even better than it was when it was in early access. But yeah, Route.
Yeah, no, it's one of those that sounds like highly polished, really good fun, really gripping. Not one I'd ever play, but top quality release.
I can sense there might be a theme in my list.
I reckon so.
So before you do your number 9, do you want to chuck a couple of honourable mentions in there?
Yeah, I'll do one now. Tekken 8. I would definitely like to give it a shout out because it's kind of, it's one of the more mainstream kind of franchises. It's fallen off in years, especially because they hardly ever do any releases and it drops out of the public consciousness. And I know that it's not been for quite some time. There was no Tekken game at Evo, I think, if memory serves. So it kind of fell off a little bit, and 7 was kind of received, to use the scoring system, the noise scoring system. Yeah. But Tekken 8 came absolutely roaring back. Everybody loves it. It's been getting plaudits out the ears and out of the wazoo. And I was one of them. I think it's a really excellent game. It's not quite top 10 for me because there are other things that just push it out. But yeah, it's a great special mention.
Yeah, it was in my original big list, not my whittled down list. So yeah, it's a fantastic game. Even I enjoyed it, and it's still one of the most accessible fighters out there as well. So good shout.
Cheers.
And I'll give a very quick honourable mention as well to one of mine. That was Ete. That's on that made it into my very nearly top games list. Just a fantastic artistic walkthrough story of someone's coming of age in a way, just told in the most beautiful way with some amazing art, allows you to do your own art, and it was just lovely. But like you with Tekken, there's just one of those where I was looking at it going, but I can name this many that I think I prefer over it. But honestly, it's a fantastic experience. Give it a shout.
Yeah. It's lovely looking.
Number 9.
So yeah, for 9 for me, I have The Legends of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. So another one that's one of those that's flawed, but I loved it. Really, I'm not making any excuses for its flaws because it did have quite a few, and I think it kind of people were a little bit disappointed ultimately with it, but I think that disappointment is probably mostly down to expectation. So yeah, okay, it's got a little bit of jank, which is very unusual for a Nintendo sort of financed product, and it's got a little bit of balancing issues and duration issues and things like that, but it looks beautiful. It's fun. I think one of the themes for me this year is all the things in my, not all of them in the top 10, but most of them in the top 10 are just brought back the fun, and this really does that. And it feels like it's aimed at kids in a good way. It's accessible, it's colourful, it's just a great thing to interact with some great ideas. So yeah, it hits my number 9.
The Zelda games, I love them, I do, but at the same time I've not played the other one before that, which is the sequel to the one everyone loves, and this one that I've just not got round to it, and it's just not. I feel like I'm like being one of those people now. It's just not grabbed me yet. Like, I've got to get this played. Whereas, I think it's because it's been such a good year for indie games and everything that I've not gone, what Nintendo doing at the moment? But it's on my list to play at some point.
Yeah.
Next on mine is really interesting game, which takes a genre or takes an existing games in many ways and does something new with it, and that's Children of the Sun, which is basically a sniper game. And what it does is what I hope something like Sniper Elite would be, before that just became yet another, you're shooting people and that's it kind of thing. What Children of the Sun does, you're still shooting people, but each scenario that you go into is pretty much a puzzle. So you have one bullet, you shoot your first target, and you basically got to plan how that bullet travels around everyone else. You get points for doing certain things, for sort of like being creative, being skillful, how many enemies you take down, all that kind of thing. And it was just a really, really interesting take. Like with some of yours, it's flawed. In some ways, I think it is definitely a one-trick pony in its execution, but I really, really enjoyed my time with it. I think sometimes something that's fairly short is one trick, is all you need. And at the time, which was towards the start of the year, it was just felt like a great game just to sort of like play in and around some of the bigger titles that I was playing, the longer titles. Really, really good game. It's definitely worth picking up.
Yep, I played it. I liked it. Yeah. VR version would be very much recommended as well if they want to do that. But there you go.
It's better than that. It's still. I can't remember if we mentioned it when we spoke about it, but do you remember when Saints Row were going to do that thing where you played as the bullet?
Oh, I remember it mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just never happened. So what I like, again, this is what the indies do. They sometimes look at ideas that someone's thought about in the bigger markets. Go, well, you've not done that right. Let us show you how it's done. And that's kind of what it feels like. It's like someone took the Saints Row thing and went, well, you bodged that, we'll fix it.
True. Yeah, no, that's a really good shout.
So it's up to you. You can either do your number 8 or you can do another honourable mention.
I'll go to my number 8, which is Utopia Must Fall. So we're well into the indie game aspect now. And yeah, Utopia Must Fall, really good. I think I talked about this when you were away ill, actually. I'm not sure if you heard me talk about it.
Yes, I did, actually. I listened to your dulcet tones.
Oh, lucky you. But yes, so this is a sort of cross between Missile Command and Space Invaders, where you control an icon on the screen. You're a base, you're fixed in one position, and you've got to destroy these missiles and enemies coming towards your base. And it's as simple as that. There's not much more to say about the gameplay other than it's a little bit roguelike. You can get weapons, and depending on how good those weapons are will depend on how well you progress. But that's only a very minor part of it. And I bought a trackball for it. I was just that into it that I really wanted a trackball for it. And with a trackball, it's just brilliant. And yeah, it looks gorgeous. It's got brilliant line art graphics. It's like vector graphic style. Lots of different filters and sort of styles you can choose on top of that. Yeah, it's great fun. I'd recommend getting a trackball and just going to town. It's an arcade purity game. Excellent.
I do. I actually, ironically, found at my trackball that I was going to put into one of my arcade sticks.
Oh, yeah.
And I never got round to doing it, purely so I could play the Golden Tee Golf. But now you've got me thinking, Stu. Now you've got me thinking.
Yeah. That's simple. Yeah, it's great.
Let's have a look at that. Anyway, moving on to, I think, sort of like one of the other games that I just absolutely adored last year, and it's The Operator, which was an absolutely outstanding game that I just fell in love with from the very first moment. Even the demo was outstanding. And basically, you play an FBI agent, but instead of being on the case and out on the streets and doing all that, you are basically a desk jockey in a way. Desk, not disc, not some kind of weird Jimmy Savile type DJ, nothing like that. And the agents phone in and they go, "Hey, we need some help. Can you give us some help? Can you look this up? Can you search the CCTV? You do all that." And then there's what you find out is there's a bit of a shadowy organisation and they're trying to get to you and stuff like that, and stuff goes places, and all done on this interface as though you're just sat at a computer desk. And it's just absolutely amazing. And again, just shows, I think, wonderfully how video games can tell a story in ways that you won't get in a film, in a TV show, in a book. It's so unique. The story is decent, and you can almost imagine like an X-Files style thing where they're doing less of the actual look aliens, where it's more the more grounded stuff, but told from that entire perspective. It goes into like shadowy and all that kind of thing. It's just absolutely brilliant. And I'm a sucker for things that mimic systems that we already know and keep you in them. But yeah, it's outstanding.
Yeah, one I've actually got but not played yet, and I'm looking forward to it. It's just one that needs pretty much needs mouse and keyboard, doesn't it, to enjoy. But
you can play it on Steam Deck, and I did play it on Steam Deck, and it's really good. But yeah, you want to be safe. A bit like Her Story. You want to sit at a desk and you want to be as though that's where you feel like you're actually part and parcel of the actual thing that's going on.
Awesome. Yeah. Great. Do you want me to do we can do a special mention if you like.
You do you, because I've lost count already. So you do what you're doing, because you know what your numbers are and stuff like that.
No worries. So yeah, I was going to mention very, very quickly Super Polygon, if I can say it, Super Polygon Grand Prix, SPGP as it's initialized, and very good virtual racing. I like. That's very good. That's all to say. I didn't quite hit the top 10, but it's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, it's one of those I've looked at, just gone about. I've just not been. Yeah, I must play that, but it's on my wish list still. So maybe at some point.
Yeah, it's one of those you can definitely wait on. It's not going to age, is it? Because it's already 30 years in style, out of date. So yeah.
I'm going to do my only other honourable mention, because the rest of mine are all sort of like into my then top 10, I think. And this one was very difficult to leave out because I thought it was absolutely brilliant. And this would have probably been my number 11 if we went for the Spinal Tap list. And that's Linkito, which is a puzzle game that's about programming, but again is about do you follow the corporation, or do you go with the resistance kind of story to it? But basically it's all about linking up circuits, essentially, and building circuits to make things work, and to create things and stuff like that. And the story itself is really good, the gameplay is really good, but beyond that there's also community levels. They've done it, so and this is the bit I haven't got round to trying, but because it's way beyond my capabilities, but you can even hook it up to actual devices. You can actually make things work in real life using the in-game programming system and stuff like that. And it was absolutely brilliant. And I'm stupid, and I had to get some help with some of it and stuff like that. But my God, the ones you did figure out for yourself, you felt like the brainiest person alive, and absolutely outstanding, that game.
Lovely. Yeah, very cool. Nice. So yeah, I'll go on to my number 7 if you like. That's what we're up to already. So yeah, my number 7 is one that you're a big fan of as well, which is Tactical Breach Wizards. Yes. Yeah, definitely one of the best games released this year, whether you're into that kind of thing or not. And I'm kind of tangentially into that kind of tactical sort of RPG, but this really grabbed me. It looks fantastic. It's got that brilliant low poly kind of flat shaded look to it. It gives it a real cleanliness, and it looks like a comic book, but in the best way, and without managing to do it without having to use cell shading. Really great look to it. It's the funniest game I've played this year. Got some really witty dialogue, beautifully scripted, and the gameplay is really fun, emergent. There's tons of options, tactics, ways of sort of intermingling with the different wizards' abilities in ways that you wouldn't necessarily straight away think of. It's just a great game, and I think everybody who's touched it sort of loves it, really.
Indeed, and I suppose this would be a good time to say this is the one that's also, you're right, it's in my list, so I'll stick this at a predetermined now number 7. Again, with my list, it's not numbered, it could go up, down, whatever. Yeah, that's my thoughts with it. I think it looks absolutely outstanding. It's got such a unique look to it. He said it's like a comic book without using the comic book design tropes, which I really appreciate, because I've played other games that do the comic book thing, and they are, oh yeah, you're trying to be too much like an actual comic book. Don't do that. You don't need to do that. It's very witty. I think the dialogue and the relationships between the characters in the game are very well done. The tactics side of it, they've not done that thing that I think some tactics games do, where they perhaps go too expensive, and it's like, this is such a huge area I've got to work in. That's blowing my head. I've kind of like, there's so much that could be off screen. This kind of keeps everything fairly well contained in each of the levels, and don't forget, it does go places with some of them, but overall you still feel like you're in control rather than playing a lot of guesswork. And it's a fantastic game. It could be a bit higher on mine, could have been a bit lower. I think 7's a great shout, where you put it in yours, and if that's only at number 7, I can't wait to hear what your next 6 are.
Well, there'll be some surprises. Yeah.
Well, let's go to number 6, because that's my one as well for that sort of position.
Okie dokie. Well, my next one is an oldie but a goodie, and a DLC, which is Vampire Survivors Ode to Castlevania. And I talked about this in length about how good it is. The things that really stick out are, how could they have bothered to put so much effort, time and detail and volume and care, love, attention into a piece of DLC that costs a couple of quid? But they did it, and it's like getting a whole new game. If you think of some DLC, it's like a little adjunct. It's a couple of hours. This one is like almost a sequel in a way. It's kind of that level of DLC, ridiculously low priced and just as addictive as the main game. So it very, very comfortably hits number 6 for me.
So a Survivor's Vania in a way.
You got it.
They need to do a Metroid one next, don't they, really? come on, Nintendo won't allow that.
Yeah, they'd never let it happen, but it would
Unless
be
it's
lovely.
a Switch exclusive, and I can't. Yeah, but it's I've got it. I've played a little bit of it, and yeah, it's ridiculous. What they could have got away with just being some skins. Just what they've put into it is amazing, and again, is a lesson to I think many other developers, especially some of the bigger publishers, that does it always need to be a new game? No. Don't treat your customers and your fan base like mugs. Don't don't exploit their loyalty to being a fan of your game. Give them something that's well worth having. And I think the Ode to Castlevania does that. And it's kind of been the year for Castlevania because I think we've had some extra collections released and stuff like that. And it's really weird to be praising something that's linked to Konami in many ways. Even though Vampire Survivor's not a Konami game, obviously. But yeah, Konami seem to be doing a fair bit this year to maybe come back into the fold. They feel like that kind of like, oh no, you're leaving because you wronged us as a family, and now they're trying to work their way back in after a few years, and they've done a couple of bits. Do you trust them? Do you not? Maybe that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah, there's definitely some IP farming out going on with particularly Silent Hill 2, but
yes,
yeah, interesting one for us to yeah.
Hopefully, Silent Hill 2 is not in your list.
It is not.
Because I've looked at it, it's Bloober Team, just on in the non-honourable mentions, I suppose. Bloober Team, I don't like them. I don't think any of their output's been great. They don't know how to handle subjects properly, and I believe that carried over into the Silent Hill 2 remake. Yeah, anyway, let's move on to more positive things. Otherwise, I'll end up talking about Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, and you don't want me talking about that one.
Fair play.
One that I really, 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 really wanted to put higher, and this is why I didn't want to number my list, because this could easily go in at 1 to 6, 7, 8, wherever. But it's Indica, which is one of the most surreal video games I think I've ever played. And as good as the original Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice was, and the way that dealt with mental health and so on and so forth, the sequel to that, I think, what I believe, really struggled to sort of get that again, and really lacked something. Whereas this seems to have picked up that mantle, and in many ways can look at not mental health as such, but takes things like religious beliefs and the way people sort of like really put themselves into religion and stuff like that without insulting anyone's intelligence. It doesn't outright slate religion, but it doesn't also outright go, oh, this is why you've got to be into religion or anything like that. It's very open in what it's trying to be. And the game starts off in one way, and you think you've kind of got this nailed, and you do sort of think you're playing, this is like, it's a bit like Senua's, it's slow, it's methodical, you're following this character around, you're hearing things, and it's all got all that going on. And then it just, again, I can't ruin it. All I just want to say is it goes places, and honestly, pick it up. The original, when it first came to me, it looked like something that someone has just put out, and it was going to be one of those maybe influencer YouTube reactionary type games where people were like, screaming and stuff like that over bits that happen, but it's totally not. Think Inscription, Pony Island, and what they look like one thing, and they go completely a direction you don't expect. That's what Indica does. This could have been number 1, it could have been 2, 3, 4. It's just so good, and I've just got to tell everyone, just pick it up, play it all the way through to completion without knowing anything else about it other than I say it's bloody brilliant.
Marvelous. Yeah, another good one. I mean,
Yes.
it's our top 10 list, so you'd expect that. But yeah, no, it sounds like, yeah, the ones that are really up at the top really are up at the top. And it's
Yeah,
so
and
hard
I
to choose.
believe because I've not watched it yet because I've not really caught up on the YouTubes or anything yet. But I believe this may also be in Steph Sterling's top games of the year, and they are very selective over what actually gets in. So yeah, don't just take my word for it. Take Steph Sterling's word for it as well.
Cool. Excellent.
If you don't like Steph Sterling, just take my word for it. Obviously.
Always happy to do that. Yeah. Do you want me to do my five? Number five?
Yeah, go for it, Johnny.
Johnny 5. And ironically enough, it features a robot. Look at that.
Nice.
Can't even be planned. And that robot is
Do you know I've
Mellowbot.
not gone off script for a bit? Obviously, we don't have a script, we're always off script. But do you know I've not gone off on a tangent for a bit?
Yeah, go on.
When I was in Lambeth in my rehab, they have like these computer, like laptop table things that they wheel around so they can do your obs and stuff like that or work out your medication. And they've built in such a way they always reminded me of Johnny 5. But some of the nurses were really so young that they didn't get my references.
Oh God, no! It'd be like 20 years before they were born, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I was disappointed. But anyway, carry on because your number 5 won't be as disappointing as the nurses' reactions to my outdated 80s and 90s references.
No, it won't. Hopefully, it's Mellowbot, a last song, and this is the one where it's an adventure. It's kind of really reducing it unfairly to a particular style. It's like Pikmin in the way that it looks, at least, and you investigate this planet and you have to perform tasks and you have to fight against creatures and robots and stuff to reinvigorate the planet, or at least so you think. Anyway, it goes places. This place goes places. This game, it really does. It's very emotive, very emotional. It's kind but also stern. I don't want to give away too much, but it has a lot to say. It does it in a way that's kind of Zelda-esque and kind of Pikmin-y, so it's strongly Nintendo influenced, but it's got a real heart and a real passion behind it that you can feel in all of the game. And it's it just really affected me because it was affecting on an emotional level, and there are not many other things I played this year that really touched me in that way, not in the bad way. So at number 5.
Show me on the video game where they touched you.
Yep. Well, number 5 is Mellowbot, a last song.
Yeah, again, another one that I like the look of and I've not got round to yet because there's so much to play. There is so many good games out there. And I've got a good game at mine. What would be, I suppose, number 5. I'm just assuming based on your number 5, this is my number 5-ish. And another one that I'm actually looking at 2 titles here and can't decide which one I would put higher out of these 2. So I'm going to go with the one that I've actually written down further down the list and go Phoenix Springs, which if we don't have a categories like best design, best narrative, stuff like that, this would win like best artwork, stuff like that, because it looks like a paper cutout animation type thing. I think I originally described it as the sort of thing that you'd see on Channel 4 as some kind of weird Hungarian art at 4 o'clock in the morning. And that's kind of like the art style it's got, and it just works wonderfully, and it's just this point and click adventure that's just got this really amazing story. And there's a theme with a lot of the games I've played throughout the year, which I think have some fantastic stories that I don't want to go into detail about. I don't want to mention too much because I think you need to, I think, experience them from yourselves, because I will never do them justice. But you kind of like starts off this person who's looking for a relative that's gone missing, and they delve further and further into their life and other bits, and truths come out and what have you. There is so much to pick up on, and it is honestly an amazing experience that it's one of those games where it will live with me forever. Even the games I've got above this, so to speak, that might not live with me forever. I might forget about them in a few years and stuff like that. This is one I think the story has embedded itself in my consciousness. It just nailed everything, and it was such an emotional experience as well. And to tell it in a point and click adventure with that art style, it doesn't detract from it. And it is just, oh my God. I'm regretting putting it now below the other one that I'll be mentioning afterwards, because this might have been the best outright point and click of the year. But then the other one I'm going to mention does run it really close as well. So, but yeah, Phoenix Springs, absolutely outstanding. I implore anyone to try it out.
Yeah, it's great when these things can actually emotionally affect you. It doesn't always happen by any stretch, and the odd one that does, like Mellowbot, like Phoenix Springs, absolutely exceptional.
So, have you got, before we move into our tops, have you got any other honourable mentions you want to pick up on?
Yeah, I'll chuck in one more. There's another one that features in your list, so I'll leave that out for now. But I will mention Helldivers 2, which I didn't play a massive amount of because it's multiplayer. I don't get the time. I don't have any mates because I've really no mates. But what I played of it, I really thought was great. It just did stuff in that multiplayer sphere that you don't really see, or at least I haven't, in that it makes you feel properly vulnerable, properly sort of glass cannon, and instead of it just being firing a weapon and seeing numbers come off an opponent, it's the environment, it's about what you can see, what's obscured. It uses sort of all of the kind of environmental effects that you'd expect from a really good quality game like Death Stranding, but applies them to a multiplayer game. It's very thoughtful in that way.
That actually puts them in a game.
If your mind goes in that direction, then yes, you could say that. But yeah, no, it's definitely a video game. It's very video gamey, but it also has a really proper next gen use of environment, the way that you move, the way that you get tired, the way that you can see or not see things, the way things are obscured. Very, very clever, very unique in that way. Yeah, definitely worth a show.
Yep. We'll co-op that one day because I've got that, and that's pretty much my fault. Except when I played it with randos, it was chaotic. My God, is that a chaotic game?
Yeah, exactly.
What I do want to give an honourable mention to, actually, before we move on to your number 4, I want to say.
It is.
Yes, we had the Johnny Five joke. Is Tricky Madness. Which probably didn't get anywhere near either of our lists. But I do want to give it an honourable mention because it is early access. There is so much potential there. We didn't go to town on it in terms of, this is missing, but we did give it quite the critical reception. But I want to give it an honourable mention because I honestly think if you've got this in your wish list, keep it in your wish list. Because I'm hoping that as 2025 comes and starts to maybe drop, I don't know, what would you call it, comes into now and phases out in 12 months, or when Trump blows the world up, whatever. I'm hoping it gets like a full release or close to that full release and lives up to the promise it's got, because it's the idea of bringing back an SSX tricky, because EA aren't doing it properly. I hope it works, and I hope it gets all the success. The core elements are there. It's, as I said, it's missing stuff. Didn't make either of our lists probably anywhere near, but just keep it in your wish list and just keep an eye on it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we were pretty balanced and fair in that we said it's unfinished, but we're gonna keep our eyes on it, and it will be re-reviewed when it's a full release, definitely.
Hopefully in 2025, you never know, it could be our game of the year.
Who knows?
The Queen's knows.
Okay. So moving on to number 4. Do you want me to do my number 4?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, my number 4 is probably nowhere near anybody's list, and very few people probably even heard of it. And it's a game called Pools, Pools, which is
yeah.
So this is a one that's going to be totally Marmite. It's a liminal space game. So if you know that kind of whole, you're stuck in an environment that is entirely made out of what is basically corridors, and if that synopsis doesn't appeal to you, you'll hate the game. But it's kind of based on that SCP Foundation thing of, strange spaces, weird,
the back rooms.
Yeah, the back rooms, exactly, all of that kind of thing. And the game itself, all you do is wander around one of these back rooms, a lot of it with this, swimming pool styled tiled background. And there are very few surprises, but it changes as you go along. And it's just like navigating a nightmare, basically. It's really, really, really strange. And if you vibe with it, if you click with what it's trying to do, it's one of those that it will have a really big impact on you. And it did for me. It's not a brilliant video game, but as an experience inserted into the video game world, it's a really, really good one. And yeah, it just struck me. It was great for me. It won't be for everybody, but yeah, really impressed me.
Get out. It's not often I will go, what on earth are you talking about? But this is one of those games where I've watched footage of it, I've watched videos of it, and I even Exit 8, which looks crap, but I get it why some people like it. I've seen this and I just, you do you. I'm happy for you, but what?
I know, right? Yeah, but what's great is that there's so much stuff out there that will just cater to so many different tastes. And I didn't think I would like this at all. I was really, really surprised. It really did shock me how much I got from it. So yeah, it's nice also to have that. Oh my God, something new.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And to be honest, I've played loads of games where you've probably just gone, what?
Why?
Most of them. And definitely one of them I'm going to put up there now, because I said now I think this maybe should have gone below the last one, but you'll understand why I maybe couldn't split these two, and that is Rise of the Silver Surfer. No, Rise of the Golden Idol, which is the sequel to the Something of the Golden Idol. I can't remember what the original was called now, but it's Something of the Golden Idol. And it's a point and click, more traditional style point and click adventure with just this really crudely hand-drawn art style that just works amazingly well, but somehow manages to bring the characterization to everyone in ways that you can't really comprehend working as well as what it does, because each scene is static in many ways. There's slight animations, but everyone kind of just is there. You click on various things, and the idea is obviously you've really got to put together a case of the Golden Isle. That was the first one. Golden Idol, not Golden Isle. I don't know what a Golden Isle is. Anyway, but yeah, you kind of got to put it together. Oh, this person did this to this person because of this, and you basically then put it all together. And it tells a lovely story. Each diorama, I suppose, in a way, is really interesting. This, even though it's static, it's so full of life. The story is somewhat, it ties into the first game in such a wonderful way, but you don't need to have played the first game to get what this is all about as well. But if you have played the other one, you get certain references that you'll understand. And it's added more to this than was in the first one. So it doesn't just feel like it could have been DLC for the first one. It does feel like a fresh game, but it feels like part of a series as well. And it's just, it's really well put together. And it's another one of those that when you work out the beating of a level, so to speak, you feel really clever about yourself. You feel really good about yourself, especially if you manage to do it without resorting to the hint system and stuff like that, which You might have to. I had to on a couple of times because, again, games should be enjoyed, and I'm glad they've got these hint systems in there to allow people who might get stuck to move on. That's all really good, and I used it a couple of times, but when I did beat it, in parts where I didn't need to do that, it felt amazing. And yeah, it's the first one was absolutely brilliant, and this is absolutely outstanding. Compared to Phoenix Sprint, I would say this is more of a fun game, whereas Phoenix Sprint is more of an emotional experience. So it's why I couldn't really split them. They're both in the same genre, but they both couldn't be any more different in their approaches. And they are both outstanding games. And yeah, if you've not played these yet, get the first one, then pay the second one, or even just pick the second one. Whatever you want to do, just play them.
Marvelous. Yeah. Well, very, very different from the previous one, and different from my next one. And my next one at number 3 is Against Great Darkness, which doesn't sound like it, but it's a vertical shooter. And this is the tiny little indie shooter
to be honest, I was worried. I was worried that we wasn't going to get one.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Now
I know you like these. I know you like
sure
these
do,
ones.
fella. I certainly do. Yeah, and this is the one where it's got hints of Ikaruga, so you know the colour that you are and they are, it depends on how much damage you do and how vulnerable you are. It's just beautifully done. It's got a kind of pinball-esque mechanic on top of it, a little bit like Breakout or Arkanoid kind of thing at the same time. It's really short, but I mean, to me, that's a positive. It's just set out to do as much as you can with that premise without boring the player, and it does it absolutely. It looks fantastic. It's practically monochrome. It's practically 8-bit, but does it gorgeously. Fun, just stuff full of like a little burst of like a grenade of fun. That's what I'd describe it as. It's great.
Yeah, again, it's another one where I'm not good at these games, and I want to be good at them. I used to be okay when I was in the arcade, or you didn't really care because you put your 50p in or whatever. If you was lucky, you might have found one for 20p once. But you put your money in and you die, and that's part and parcel of the arcade. But when you start playing them at home properly, you realise how bad you actually are. It's just like, it's a me problem. It is. I remember, I think when you first spoke about this, it looked really good. It sounded really good, but I just know it's not for me, unfortunately.
For sure.
I wish I was good at games.
Well, if it helps, I can't do any of the puzzle ones because I'm too thick. So swings and roundabouts.
I have brains. You have the fingers. And 2 legs.
And the legs.
You've always got that over me now, yes.
There we go. Oh, God. What's yours?
Right, so now we are into, this is coin flip territory. My special 3-sided coin. Because any of these could have been my number one. So let's go with Duck Detective, The Secret Salami. Could have been number one for title alone.
Agreed.
But could have been number one because it's another point and click in many ways. And where I said the other two couldn't be any more different, well, Duck Detective, The Secret Salami, again goes pure humour. And it's got amazing writing to go along with it. And it's short. It takes a couple of hours to work through. But the characters you meet have all got something. And there's like, even sort of like the Duck Detective character as well, he's coming off the back of a divorce and stuff like that. And it's really well written. Like, the characters have got more depth to them and more humanity than you get in some AAA epics that have been like, they've spent like years and years developing these characters. Like, the Duck Detective has more about him than Joel probably does. You can almost, it just feels like right, and the characters are all flawed. which means like when you're having to make judgments against certain characters over, I mean, there's no spoilers here, who stole the salamis in the office, because that is what the game is. It's a point and click detective game about finding out who stole someone's lunch, essentially. It's very, very short, but there's just like, but you feel like if you're making accusations, but you're flawed yourself, it kind of feels right. Whereas I've seen other detective style games where the detective or the person who's doing it is perfect. You know, they haven't got flaws. You need flaws. Everyone's got flaws, and it becomes believable, and it's more human than, I say, many other games you will play. And it's just something about it that just really just hit home for me. It made me laugh so much with how it worked. It was never frustrating, even if you did have to go back and forth and speak to different people, and you might have to do a little bit of circling the wagon to work out exactly where to go next. It all felt right. Nothing was overly signposted, but nothing was too obtuse that you couldn't find it. But it has got a sequel coming later this year, which is I can't wait to play. But yeah, I'm hoping that whatever they've got this engine, they've got Duck Detectives, and if we see lots of hour to 2 hour releases come up, I'm all in. I'm all in, because it was amazing, absolutely fantastic game from start to finish, and I completed it in a weekend.
Whoa, so you liked it then?
Yes, oh,
yeah,
really good.
Crikey. Oh, nice one. Yeah.
And I want a Duck Detective plush.
Oh,
and I'm hoping if by putting it right up there on the list, maybe the devs might go, oh, okay, you may have one.
Oh, can you imagine? That'd be superb. I want more free plushies.
I will give developers top 10 billion for plushies.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd do anything.
Maybe not a Rail Route plushie. I'm not sure how you'd get a Rail Route plushie, but that's why it's down at like towards the bottom of my top list. Because you can't get a plushie.
Yeah, we're doing it plushie order. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the plushie list.
That's right. So for my plushie list number 2, I'm not sure how you would do one. Oh, actually, yeah, we could, because it's C Smash VRS at number 2 for me, which is the belated sequel to Cosmic Smash, which came out in the arcades and on the Dreamcast. And this is a VR game, and as you would expect, it's Smash in space. And what you've got to do is got to hit a laser ball, as it were, a laser squash ball at walls that move in different patterns to break them down, Arkanoid like. So it's squash and Arkanoid, played in the first person in VR, obviously, and it's just brilliant. It's like one of the best VR games I've ever played. And the reason is that, like, when you play kind of rhythm action games or rhythm games, music games in VR, a lot of them are sort of, there's less subtlety, there's more kind of like, you got to flap your arms about, but cleverly. You can't just like go wild. It's like Beat Saber. You've got to be quite accurate, quite specific.
Yeah, I've seen that. I went, nah, you're right. It's like Dance Revolution. It's like, nah, I can't do that. Have you seen them?
Yeah,
they're crazy.
Exactly, it's madness. And same with pistol whip. Even though it's shooting a gun, you've got to be accurate. You've got to be timely. The thing with C Smash VRS is that it just takes this fictional sport and using physics turns it into what feels like an actual sport. The level of control and the degree of accuracy in the controllers and what you can do in terms of like curling the ball and that kind of spin, top spin, back spin, all of that works perfectly, and it just makes the experience so good because it's got its own strange invented physics and power-ups, and it's got its real world stuff integrated into it perfectly. So it's a fake sport made practically real by VR. It looks gorgeous as well, and that's a big deal when you're in VR. Things need to look simple but pretty, and it does, and it's just amazing fun. And it would have been my number 1 if not for the one that did get to number 1, but very, very close. It's just an awesome VR experience. Really can't recommend it enough.
Excellent. Again, not much to comment on. I haven't got VR. I've not really played much VR, so I've got nothing to compare it to. But I know you are the VR expert, so it must be good.
Well, I certainly
I
spend
sounded
enough money on
sarcastic.
them.
It wasn't meant to sound sarcastic, by the way. That was actually a genuine, yeah.
Yeah, well, I spend enough money on them to have an opinion, I think. So, yeah, there we go.
Right. Before I get, because I'm looking at the two titles now that are going to battle it for the technically number one spot. Just while I did make the decision and flip the coin, there has been a game title that has been very conspicuous by its absence on my list so far. And thankfully, they did bring out a version this year, and I've not really had a chance to sit down with it much. But now we're near the top, I will mention its name, and that's Tetris, of course. Not my game of the year because I've not played enough, but Tetris Forever is essentially a collection of not forgotten, but some old Tetris games, missing a few obvious ones that should be there. Hopefully they can sort out some licensing, but documentaries and all kind put together by the Digital Eclipse, who done the amazing Jeff Minter collection, the Atari 50 collection, stuff like that. But yeah, it's Tetris. It's going to be good because it's Tetris in it, and it's not made by Ubisoft, who somehow messed up Tetris. Never let them forget. Whatever they do, they could save the world, cure cancer. Never let them forget they fucked up Tetris. Anyway.
I think that's
fair. Yeah. Number two is Balatro.
Hey, there we go.
Right, I had to make that decision. Balatro. Many people's number one for this year, and deservedly so. It is an absolutely sublime game. Came out at the start of the year. I remember playing the demo the back end of last year, and the demo sold the game. But I didn't realise then that it would become quite the phenomenon that it has actually become. It's kind of one of those games that's superseded everyone's expectations. I think especially the developer, who basically, I think, said very early on that it's just a collection of if-else statements that make it work, and that if you actually looked at the code behind the scenes, it would give people a meltdown who knew what they was actually doing. And, you know, Local Thug, who made it, has deserved all the success. There's not much I can really say about it, because anyone who's bothering to listen to this podcast probably knows enough about video games anyway and has heard of this. It's out on PC, console, handheld, phones, tablets, air fryers, kettles, Nespresso machines. I think it's been pretty much now ported to everything. It's going to be the new Doom, I think, at some point.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely brilliant. It's been like collaborations are going off the charts, and I think, unlike Vampire Survivors, I think some of the this is the only negative I would put about some of the collaborations are purely skin deep, and that's a shame. I'd like to see more done with the collaborations. Like, you've got a Cyberpunk one that's done, and it's because the Joker is Jimbo is in Cyberpunk as like something, and then you've got all these different like card backs and stuff like that. I'd like to see more done with collaborations. Maybe change up the mechanics a bit, or give you some, I don't know, different modes, new jokers that can only be used in like I don't know, say for example, the Cyberpunk mode or the Witcher mode or something like that. But that's nitpicking, because the main game is outstanding. I am, across the formats I've played it, I'm probably hitting 200 to 300 hours on that game now. It is absolutely the main game. The original release is nigh on perfection. I can't think of anything that's wrong with it. You don't need to have played poker to understand it, so it doesn't alienate anyone. It's not gambling in the slightest, despite the original controversy. It does wonders for people who might have that addictive personality and could go down gambling routes. I think it's a great way to keep away from it. There's no microtransactions or anything like that, where it'd be very easy, I think, to turn it into a microtransaction laden like twat fest of a game, not gone down that route, so that deserves the praise and everything. And I just cannot recommend this game enough. It's not overly expensive either. If you've only got it on PC, get it on Switch. If you've only got it on Switch, get it on PC. Even if you don't own a PC, get it on your phone, get it on your tablet, wherever you need to get it, and just play it because it's amazing.
Yeah, it hit one of my honourable mentions. It's the best game of its type, i.e. of any game featuring cards ever, I think, probably. And they're not really my genre. And even then, it still managed to hit like number 11 or 12 in my list. It was that good.
You like the roguelike deck builder. So that's how good it is.
That's how good it is. Exactly. It smashed its way into my consciousness. And it's just, like you say, it's so addictive, but without being addictive in the naughty way.
Yes.
You're not flashing out actual cash, but it's still an addictive game, and you don't get that. That's come once every 5 years or something, maybe once a decade. Your Luminas, your Tetrises, that kind of thing. And it's a fabulous game. Absolutely deserves its spot.
So we are now down. Let's leave it there. Done. Yeah, sorted. No worries.
Could do.
Everything's sorted. Because I reckon, right? I reckon that Superman's robot dog is going to be number one for you. I don't think even that's a spoiler. I think I know what your number one is, and if I'm wrong, then I'll blow me. I'm surprised.
It's robot dog.
Superman's robot dog, by the way. That makes more sense because what would Superman's robot dog be called? Ghost you.
Well, the funny thing is, he's not got a robot dog, but he's got a dog called Crypto. But he has got a robot dog.
But that's weird. That then
you've got
Houston. Then the Houston basketball team or baseball team, whatever they are. Bloody hell!
That's better.
What's your number one, Stu?
It is, the Houston what's his name's mascot. Astrobot. Hey, there we go.
Not a CryptoBot, something completely different. We don't want to play something. It's called CryptoBot.
No, probably not. There goes your money.
Making that as we speak.
Oh Jesus, I can imagine. But yeah, no, Astrobot completely bullied its way to the top of the list, and it didn't even need to take much effort because, again, going back to fun, it was just the most fun game of the year by such a margin. It's every minute of playing it was a joy. It didn't have to be the best in every area, and it wasn't the best in every area, but it was fantastic in every area. Okay, so is it going to dethrone some of the best Marios? No. Is it going to dethrone some of the middling to upper tier but not top tier Marios? Yes.
Someone is at the front door.
And someone is at the front door. I don't know if you heard that.
Nice. What happened to the Devil's Anus?
I had to get rid of that. So story time for anyone who doesn't know. I used to have the Alexa set to when the Ring doorbell went off to say somebody is at the Devil's Anus, which was hilarious. But unfortunately, I would be on work calls and that would come up, which caused some ructions. But yes, back to Astrobot, the Houston whatever's people. So just amazing fun. Absolutely, wonderful platforming, great stuff full of ideas. It's one of the best looking games of the year, if not the best, certainly the best looking platform game of the year. Just you run out of superlatives. It's apparently won the most Game of the Year awards for a platformer ever. So yeah, it's just stunning fun, amazing.
Yeah, it's the one game that's made me go, I really want a PS5. Just for that one game. And when something, even without playing it, I've seen people's reactions to it. I've seen the footage of it. And if one game can make you go, I want an entire system just for this one game, then it's doing something right. And yeah, it looks outstanding. And it looks like for a brief moment, Sony remembered what made like the PlayStation 1 as successful as what it was, what made the PlayStation 2 as successful as what it was. And it remembered that mascot platformers can be an absolute joy. I think I've looked at it and gone, it's like someone's Kaizo'd up like Mario Odyssey in some ways with some of it. And I'm all for that. And I think Astrobot is a fantastic mascot as well. And it certainly looks better, and from what I understand has done much better than what they managed to do with Sackboy in the end. Although please bring Sackboy back properly. The adventure game you made for him, Sony, wasn't very good. It was all right, but he deserves better. Sackboy's an amazing character.
Yeah.
But Astrobot, yeah, I think it says something really, isn't it, when the two best games on PlayStation 5 are Astrobot games. Or for showing off their hardware, shall we say? Yeah, no, because the original, because it showed off their new controller, their new DualSense, didn't it? They had the demo version, and it was also the one that they launched the VR with as well. I've done an amazing job with that.
Yeah, it was an amazing VR game and a really good pack-in sort of demo game as well. And what really struck me is that I played a lot of it on my Steam Deck using the link, using Chiaki, so I could play it on that. But the difference it makes when you're playing it on the console, on a big screen, with the dedicated pad, getting that proper feedback and having the reactive triggers and using the speaker, it just utilizes that interface so well, absolutely beautifully. It's so immersive, and the graphics being as good as they are, it running at 60 frames, it have an incredible surround sound. Like, I've got speakers that I bought for like a pittance 20 or 30 years ago that I use as surround speakers, but it just sounded absolutely perfect and flawless through those. It added so much to the game. The care, the dedication, that stepping away from, we're on the money train of producing game after game after game in this type of format, giving it several years and not doing it, and then stepping back into it with something of this quality. That's absolutely what people need to do, and they just did it so beautifully. Sony did in this case.
What I will ask, question I do want to ask, we'll have to mention the big, giant white elephant in the room with its additional ball trunk, because I think that's how it works. You play this on an original PS5 or one of the stupid, ridiculously overpriced PS5 Pros with the additional disc unit you've got to buy for it?
Yeah, no, I'm not going near one of them. This is on an original PS5.
Cool. So still hopes maybe, you never know, that one day we might see that make the jump.
There's a very good chance. There's a very good chance. Yeah, leave it a year and a half, I reckon. Yeah, you'll
well, they got Ratchet and Clank across, didn't they? And that was only meant to work on a PlayStation 5.
Yeah, that's absolutely
because it's the only system that had the technology to do such a game. Yeah. I love it when the console manufacturers make claims like that sometimes. Was it the Xbox One with its cloud servers and stuff like that would make games run most amazing they've ever done? And then we got Crackdown 3.
I know. And I think Digital Foundry did a video on it where I think they ran it off a hard disk, like not even an SSD. I think they off a Rust, spinning Rust, and managed to get it to work on a PC like Ratchet and Clank. So it just took longer to load. So yeah, it's just bullshit claims all around.
Yeah, instant load is an amazing thing, and that's what you could. If you wanted to turn around and go, you only get the instant loading on consoles via PlayStation 5, then great, go ahead. But see if you could. Yeah, I'm hoping Astrobot makes the jump. Sackboy made the jump. So Astrobot and Wipeout. Come on, Sony. But yeah, it's a well deserved number one. Well deserved.
Marvelous. And so, what is yours?
So mine. And the reason I've decided to put this as technically number one and not Balatro is many people will have Balatro as their number one. If they haven't played Astrobot, of course, quite possibly. So I felt, you know what am I adding to it by putting Balatro at number one? Okay, so I'm going to put it's another roguelike deck builder that I think scratches an itch so well, and that is Dungeon Crawler. And the reason I've put this over Balatro is this surprised me in a way that Balatro didn't. Balatro, I knew it was good because I played the demo and everything. Dungeon Crawler, I looked at it, I saw read the synopsis, trailers, stuff like that, and I was like, yeah, but is it not just going to be a bit too randomised? You know, you're having to pick, it's a claw machine, you pick stuff up, is it not a bit too random? Whereas deck builders, for me, you need to have a degree of control. However, I played Dungeon Crawler and I just fell in love. The premise is simple. You go through different levels and you work through different floors, like you would in Slay the Spire, until you get to the big boss at the end. Then you have to beat the big boss, as well as loads of like both level bosses and mid-level bosses and stuff like that. And as you go, you have like base items for your character, so like a couple of knives, a couple of shields, maybe a sword, and then something that's relevant to the character you pick. They drop it into the machine, and then you pick it up and you attack or defend, buff, whatever you're going to do. But as you go, you get rewards, like you will in any good deck builder. So you might get metal items in there. You might get, one of the things you pick up is a magnet. And then if you pick up the magnet, it picks up anything metal with the magnet. Or you might pick up a poison grenade as another item that you can drop in. And if you pick up a poison grenade from the claw machine, drop it in, it adds 3 poison to all enemies that are in there. And then you learn about synergies, like again, all deck builders, you learn about the synergies that go in with it. And it's learning these synergies where it's brilliant. So I found one, even playing it yesterday, I was playing, and I found one that allowed me to take damage, and every time I took damage gave me strength. And I managed to get hold of a sword that it would attack for 15 damage, but do you 2 damage in return. So you attacked for 15 but got 2 strength added, which then added more power to the next attack. And every time you used that to attack, you was getting more strength, more power, etc., etc. And you built up a really good synergy. But you could also then back that up with every time you take damage, so that was an actual item. But then you could get an actual sort of like perk buff type thing, which said every time you take damage, you also get 5 spikes added, so that if an enemy then attacks you, they then get X damage back to them as well. So you was building up yours, and when they done their attack, you chipped away enough of theirs, they hit you once. But because you've built up spike, strength, they hit you, they die. And you build up these really good synergies, and there's a block-based synergy where you can sort of like build up loads of block and then chip away, but they can't do anything to you because you keep more and more block because you buy perks for it. And you're doing all this. And what initially felt like something, you're just randomly going in, you actually realise that you can go in and you can be fairly selective in what you're picking out. Yes, it does drop in random and it falls. You don't always get the pick that you want, but you can be fairly selective. And the skill comes from learning how to build these synergies and learning and moving forward. And the first time it really clicks for me, I realised actually this is really, really good, and this is why this is so up there. It's something that Slay the Spire did. When you first play Slay the Spire, you pick up every card you can get, every reward you can get. You're like, take this. And then, but you need at some point in Slay the Spire that if I don't take this, that's fine. Actually, if I now start getting rid of these items, that's even better. It allows me to get what I want. And the first time I did it, I went, actually, I want to get rid of these items now to make sure I've got more chance of getting these items drop and picking them up. And when you realise that, that's when you get up the deck building masterclass. That's the moment in a deck builder. You know they've nailed it, and that you've picked up on it. When you start going, right, I don't want this, I want to remove this, I don't want to pick anything up here, and so on and so forth. Oh, I don't want to always go to reward rooms because that's going to cause me these issues. What I actually want to do is just fight my way through now. I've got the build that I want, so let's just fight enemies, and all stuff like that. And it's, so good. Balatro is wonderful, and this has got that same addictiveness that Balatro has in a different format. And I think when I originally reviewed this and we spoke about it, I said, like, I want to see more of these. I want to see a coin pusher style one. Many arcade games have got that. I think you could turn many arcade games into really good deck builder roguelike type things. Even you go something like Whack-A-Mole based on sort of like what hammers you get, what moles come up, or whatever. There's so many variants you could do with this. Dungeon Crawler is, for me, as good an experience as Balatro. I can't split them in terms of my favourite deck builder roguelike of the year. Cannot split them. The reason I put this at number one is I don't think enough people know about it yet, and more people should know about it because it's wonderful.
Yeah, very cool. I mean, I know that the people who have kind of interacted with it seem to have massively high praise for it, like yourself. It might be a grower, I think. Do you think? Take time to
I hope
grow
so.
a base?
It's come out in the shadow of Balatro, and that's the unfortunate thing. It's like Monster Train is a really, really, really good card-based deck builder. But it came out in the shadow of Slay the Spire, and Monster Train has never quite got the recognition it deserves because of Slay the Spire. And I think the problem with a lot of these coming out now is unfortunately Balatro. But I'm not going to say Local Funk doesn't deserve it, doesn't deserve all the success, because he got there first and he made something special. But this is special as well. I just hope, if I could get another couple of people to pick it up based on it being up there as my number one for the year, alongside Astrobot and above Balatro, then good. The developers deserve it because, again, they've made something that is really, really special.
Marvelous. Yeah, we'll advertise it as much as we can. Definitely deserves it. Yeah, brilliant. Well, that's it. That's the list. Unless there's any other honourable mentions, or I suppose we could cover any disappointments. I know it's a bit of a bummer note to end on, but we could quickly mention anything you're disappointed in if you wanted to.
There are definitely a couple of things in terms of games themselves. I do want to point out that Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons was atrocious. That's how not to do a remake, by the way. Don't do that. Brothers Tale, just don't do that. That's just, I don't like. The original's fine. Just read. It's one of those. You just go, why did you do it? And you somehow made it worse. How have you made it worse?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's really, really poor. But I suppose the big takeaway from the year, and it's something that's got to end next year, this year, is studio closures. Can we stop? If you are a big publisher, if you want to buy a studio, make sure it's because you want to make good video games, not for tax reasons or showing that infinite growth that you're doing and stuff like that. Don't buy studios and then shutter them. And I get why developers on these studios do allow themselves to be bought, because they might not have a choice themselves, because they might at the time get the money they need to finish a project. Tango Gameworks, I mean, that's a disgrace, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. What happened to them? I mean, thankfully they're landing on their feet. What happened to Annapurna Interactive and stuff like that? No, I'm sorry, that's just outright wrong. And that's just some of them. It's like all the people that have lost their jobs and they're being thrown back into a market where the jobs are drying up anyway, and what choice do they have? They go independent. Well, how many indies have we got that we can't even cover today? I could probably give you another 100 decent indies from this year. So that market, you can't just go, oh, just make your own game, because you're not guaranteed to hit. Dungeon Crawler, for example, I hope it does well, but there's a good chance it may, in terms of numbers, get nowhere near what they need to actually turn that into, a life-living profit. And so on and so forth. The shuttering of studios, Microsoft especially, do one of the richest companies in the world, and you're needed to shut our small game studios. Behave, right? Don't buy any more studios this year. It's an absolute piss take, is all I could put for that.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. It's absolutely fair. It's a disgraceful way to behave, and it barely makes any logical, financial, or any kind of sense, really. Because if you've got an asset, then you keep that asset and make the most of it. In the capitalist terms, you exploit that asset to its absolute max. And having something of the quality of Tango Gameworks, for example, you just don't get rid of them. It's just they're just too good. Madness. Yeah, I would say
let them fund themselves. If you go like Tango Gameworks, right, and this is what really gets me with that. We'll use this as an example, right? I'd understand if Hi-Fi Rush was a critical success but a commercial flop, but it wasn't. It was both critical and commercially viable. It done well. It made profit. Let that profit be what partly funds their next game. Don't just shutter them, right? So you give them, right, here's the budget we're going to give you to make the next game. But because your last game made profit, we can give you this much on top to make that game. If the game you make doesn't make massive profits, which barely burn a hole in what we're doing anyway, it's spare change to Microsoft, it's spare change to EA, and so on and so forth. If it doesn't quite make it, you go, right, your budget for your next game, you've actually got to think smaller. But let the actual developers do what they want to do. Let them make the games they want to make, and you just then take the profits. Sit back, do nothing but promote. That's all you need to do on that side of it. Let them make the games that will sell your systems. Because for once, Sony did that. They let the developers behind Astrobot make the game they wanted to make. And then we've actually had, for the first time in 20 years, a system seller. It's that I can't think of another system seller as an individual game for years. But, PlayStation 1, that had system sellers on it. You bought a PlayStation to play Ridge Racer. You bought an Xbox to play Halo. We've not had those over the past couple of generations. Astrobot is that, right? But you still don't get the feeling that Asobo are safe. You still go, oh, there's a good chance they might get shuttered because something.
Yeah.
And that's not a world that we should be living in this industry. And I know there's bigger problems throughout the world, and it's the gaming industry. But when you're turfing people out who this is their livelihoods, it's only adding to the problems in the actual important world, so to speak, as well. And if the entertainment dries up, what's the fucking point in life? If you can't have fun, what's the point?
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, I agree. Asobo feel to me like they're in a kind of Studio Liverpool kind of position, i.e. everything they bring out is brilliant, but you still feel they're vulnerable, which is insane. And it's mad when there's the rise of, AI produced content that you could have such fantastic artists like them, like Tango Gameworks, like everyone that Microsoft has shuttered. And, you could still think of getting rid of them because it's madness. But yeah, let's hope it tails off now. But yeah, I would say from a gaming point of view, the one big disappointment for me was Ultimate Swing Golf in VR, which was Clap Hands',
yes.
Yeah. It was a real disappointment because, everybody's golf just gets this lovely kind of Simcade kind of mix. Not even Simcade, but kind of, just arcadey golf kind of game, but has enough depth to it to make it, substantial game.
I would argue, everybody's golf is more golf-like than some of the actual realistic golf games, in all fairness. So,
well, that's it, because games are supposed to be about capturing the feeling rather than the specifics. when it comes to, unless it's a simulation, that's what it should be doing. You want to capture the feeling of, driving a supercar around a tight bend. You don't want to, you don't want the reality of it.
No, which is why Grid for me is like the Toka games are much better than Gran Turismo. Because Gran Turismo just has no excitement.
Yeah, and that's the reason. And yeah, so I thought, it's an absolute sort of home run to just easily knock out the park, where you can put it into VR and you won't have any problems. But it's too finicky. The power balance doesn't feel right. It doesn't seem to capture the fun of striking the ball. It seems to you can hook or slice way too easily. I don't know.
Yeah. It's VR games, and golf always seems to be the one people go for. I think because it's like I get why they go for golf. The problem is when you're playing in a video game and it's 2D and whatever, you've got that tactile feedback, that proper tactile feedback of pressing a button and stuff like that. So that works. That actually works as a game. The second you take away, and I think Wii Sports had this issue with the golf side of it, and I think the same issue you'll get in VR. What are you actually swinging? Right? What are you actually swinging and what are you actually hitting? So when you're actually striking a golf ball, I'm not very good at golf, I'm crap at golf, but at least I know when I hit a golf ball, you still get a feeling of I've messed that up, or I've hit that sweetly, because you've got that tactile hit, that noise, that feeling as you go through it. You know how far to bring a club back. It's got weight to it. You can't do that in a VR space properly because you don't get any of that proper tactile feedback. And don't get me wrong, you could probably get accessories that allow you to pretend to hit an actual ball on a fucking tether or something like that. But I don't want to be letting my kids use that where it could accidentally break off and smash something. So golf is a weird one where they seem to always want to try and go, this is how we do it. Look, this shows you like the future of gaming. The tennis is another one. You don't. No, it's not needed. You don't have to replicate everything in real life in VR. Do what's fun.
Yeah,
and obviously fighter pilot games in VR, obviously.
Yeah, I mean it does things right that you'd expect. So it does have good haptics for when you're hitting the ball, but I just feel that it needs to be more arcadey. They needed to just trammel it a little bit more. I would say that the best thing that you can do with this kind of game is to make the striking of the ball the easy part. The difficult part should be adjusting for the wind, club selection, ball selection, and even player selection in some ways. So you kind of like dumb down the actual striking, but you ramp up the environmental stuff, because that stuff you need to use your brain to account for. So that was a big
increase the margin of error. So rather than you've swung slightly off, said it's going to fly off. You don't want that in a video game. Just go I tell you what, increase the margin of error. So you've got to really badly mess up your swing before it starts veering off drastically, and then add some RNG into if you hit it within that margin of error, so it's still fairly sweet and straight and going straight. Add the slight RNG to go, but actually this is going to drift slightly to the right, but not drastically to the right. It's little things like that where I think that's where they've still got to learn with VR. And it'll come. I think I actually, where I was quite dismissive of VR originally, I still think it might come at some point.
Well, I'd say they've already nailed it with Cosmic Smash VRS. I mean, it really is that good. And so many other companies could learn from what has been done there, because it really nails it. But yeah, it's a tough one to get right, definitely.
Hopefully they do. But yeah, overall, I think, just to finish on the positive though, overall, if you look, I say, scratch beneath the surface of the big names and everything, and you will see an amazing pool of talent, but not the guys that actually made. Well, they are talented. Obviously, they made some very interesting pools, but I don't get that one, Stu. Sorry, don't get it at all. But there's like the fact that something like that can exist and does exist, and someone somewhere can find enjoyment from it, shows you what video games are all about. And I hope that, like, for anyone listening, that we brought you a decent slice of what makes these games special.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's probably at least 10, maybe even 15 that very few people have played, so we can take them as recommendations if nothing else. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, no, it was a great year. It's been the 2024 was one of the best years for games for, I don't know, at least 3 or 4 years, maybe more. So yeah, kudos.
And if the arse does fall out of the console industry, thankfully I've got like over 3,000 Steam games, so I think I'll be all right.
Yeah, my backlog is pretty substantial. I can live with it.
Yeah.
But I suppose we better leave it there. So thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed. I will make sure that the list is, I'll use some clever tricks to obscure what the games are, because if you're spoiled by the list when you're reading it off before you listen to the podcast, there's no point listening. So yeah, I'll be cheeky with that. Just a quick note that obviously we're still recording using just normal telecoms. We're not recording separately, so the audio quality is still not where we want it to be, but that will improve when poor Brad gets more settled and he can get his PC back out and playing on it again. So we're messing around and we're more of a studio-like setup, but that's for the future to look forward to. In the meantime, follow all of our content. Make sure you're checking us out on socials. Join us on Discord to chat. And in the meantime, until next time, stay safe and stay sane.